Hey, everybody. This is Dr. Alicia and Dr. Cris. And today we are going live on Facebook and on YouTube. And we want to talk about a really interesting topic. And before we get started, I just want to introduce myself for people who don't know who I am. I am Dr. Alicia Watkins. I am a social worker, a therapist, a college professor, an author, a writer, and pretty soon I'm going to be an international speaker, Cris. Oh my gosh.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I do little stuff, and but it's all like great learning experience for me. So anyway, I got in the works of talking about doing a discussion with Boyce about in Canada. So Black Canada there's a group of people in Black Canada who really want to hear what we have to say about relationships and so forth. And I want to introduce everybody to my really good friend from college. Her name is Cris, Dr. Cris. She's double Dr. Cris, by the way. She has 2 PhDs. Did anybody know anybody crazy enough to have 2 PhDs? Now, wait, Cris, you got a PhD in clinical psychology, which doesn't surprise me because we met in college and you're a psych major and I was a psych major, and we met in this minority research program in one summer, and you have just been like, I think about you a lot, even though we don't talk as much as I'd love for us to, but she has a PhD in clinical psych and also a PhD in industrial organizational psychology. Good grief.
Yes.
Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you get
Oh no. I will tell you at the end it was rewarding, but yeah, I had that question about myself several times.
Oh my God. So I am Dr. Alicia and you are Dr. Cris. So
girl, one doctor is enough, right? We're good. We're equal.
Oh, that is so funny. But anyway, I wanted to have us talk about, because we have really good conversations, and I wanted to talk to you about, because I asked you, I said, Cris, have you heard of this guy? He's like a relationship guru and his name is Derrick Jaxn. And you said, no, I haven't heard of him. So my immediate reaction is, oh, let me tell you what's going on with him. And, it's just, I love the internet and I love Facebook and I love social media. Since I've been hanging around with my husband, he's introduced me to a whole world of social media. And it's something that I never in a million years would ever think I would even participate in. Let me tell you how far away from social media I was, Cris. I was so busy having babies and trying to get tenure. I forgot. Let me tell you, I forgot the password to my Facebook page. Not only that, but I forgot the password to the email address that my Facebook page was connected to. So when I first got on Facebook, I remember like being Boyce's Facebook friend, right? So I created this account, followed Boyce on Facebook. This was back in 2008, right? Didn't think anything, never checked the page, forgot everything. And so later on, like usually throughout the years, I've known Boyce 30 years now. So throughout the years, like if I want to get a hold of him or find out how he's doing, I never would think to go on social media. I never thought to even create an Instagram page or anything else like that. So the world of social media and the internet is somewhat I'm green to the whole thing. And so anyway, it wasn't until like we started dating that I became Facebook friends with him, because when you forget the password, you just have to just create a new Facebook page. So I was like, wow, he's got a lot of followers on Facebook. Like I couldn't figure out what was going on, why he was so popular in this Black space. Clueless about it, because he was just my friend Boyce, because when we met, he wasn't even Dr. Boyce. But anyway.
I remember, yes.
It was crazy. So this whole social media, arena is something that was like so new to me. And as I'm exploring it, I started noticing that there was a lot of people doing therapy or like presenting themselves like an expert guru on relationships and all of these
Mm.
things. Cris, these people do not have the credentials.
I know.
And it's people like Derrick Jaxn. Have you ever heard of Kevin Samuels?
No, I have not heard of him
Okay,
either.
let me tell you, that's a conversation we'll have later. But so it's all these people, they have really interesting practical kind of like anecdotal things about relationships, but in terms of
Mm-hmm.
like having the formal training, like understanding the psychology of human behavior, there's a theory to it. There's a whole body of language, a body of knowledge
Yes.
about it. There's like all
Yes.
these things about how to help people, how to help
Yes.
people get along with other people. There's an entire body of information and research. And I'm not saying that practical experience and anecdotal stuff is like you can't rely on that, but it's so biased that you have to check your biases along the way, right? Because you can get in the middle of it. And we know about transference and countertransference. Like it's the helping profession. There's theories attached to helping
Absolutely.
people, and there's things
Yes.
that work and things that don't work. So
Absolutely.
we know this, right? We did
We
research
know
in this
this,
area.
right? We know this because we were in the program.
Yeah,
They taught us this stuff.
they taught us this stuff. So
And I will say
it,
one more thing, Alicia. Like, people can be like, oh, it's a theory. But that's the thing, is like what we then learned was about how these theories have been validated or not validated or proven through research. Like maybe it was good for this group of people, but we learn how, oh, this is the way it needs to be tweaked for other group of people.
yes, there's always caveats. That's
Mm,
why it's a theory. It's not a fact yet. It's a theory and applies to these people. So there's a science to this, right? That's what makes us licensed professionals. We do all these things. So here we have this gentleman who is super popular. And actually, I followed him on Facebook. His name is Derrick Jaxn. And he gets on there. And by the way, I was like really impressed with him because he didn't have a degree, but he had really sound advice. And I really enjoyed a lot of his advice. So, one thing that Derrick Jaxn would do is, he would get on there and he would say, hey, everybody. And he would have a conversation and he would talk about, um, relationship advice. And he focused a lot of his attention to men, and he focused a lot of his attention to women and understanding women, and saying you have to treat women like a queen, you have to treat people right. So a lot of his discussions on Facebook and even on YouTube, it was pretty sound. But a lot of people, like Boyce, would watch him and Boyce would say, oh my God, he's pandering to women, and he did that a lot. So
mm.
that was one of the criticisms of him. So anyway, come to find out, he's got like millions of people who follow him. He does these live events, and there's a room full of women. By the way, if you got to see a picture of him, Cris, he looks like he lives at the gym. He is
Oh,
super,
okay.
he is eye candy. Like,
Okay. All right. All
so,
right.
so, right. And he's like, hey, ladies, if he doesn't respect your body and respect who you do, you don't need to deal with that. Like he would talk and he would give you like bedroom eyes when so when you
Mm.
see his little podcast or whatever, he would give you these really bedroom eyes and stuff. So he
Mm-hmm.
did. So I see Eric. Welcome, Eric. Eric is like, he told women what they wanted to hear. He did. So no accountability when it comes to like women also need to hold up their end of the bargain. But it was all basically,
Yes.
yeah. Can you imagine that advice this one-sided?
No. I mean, as a matter of fact, shoot, that's what I've encountered with people when you try to talk about, hey, have you thought about couples counseling? They're like, oh, I don't want to go to couples counseling. That female therapist or that male therapist is gonna side with one or the other. And it's like, nah, it don't work that way. We're trained. We're trained where
We're trained.
we know how to not do that.
That
So
is
that
so, yeah.
Yeah, no, so I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt, but
No,
like, yeah,
go.
no, no, that's one of the things I think that is a flag from the beginning. If you're
Yeah.
listening to someone and they're not, they have some kind of bias or they're leaning one way or the other, you might want to think about where they're coming from, right? Like, do they really know the background? Because our role as therapists is not to be is to watch our biases. I mean, we're trained, right, Alicia? We train from the beginning.
Yeah.
We have to be aware of those biases, and we have to know exactly when those biases may be creeping in when we're helping other people.
That is so interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's so fascinating because I teach the Practice One courses at my university, and it's the very first semester for a lot of students who want to become therapists. And the very first thing I talk about is the biases. And you have
Yes.
to be always check them, and you have to be aware that you're not interfering.
Yes, and you have to be open to the fact that you have unconscious biases,
Yes.
which may be the case. This person may be very, very much have great intentions, but not realizing his bias.
And it's so fascinating. It's because it's so unconscious, and because I know that this is happening, I pay for my own supervision. You know
Okay.
what? Where I go and I talk to my mentor every time we meet, and I'm like, hey, I'm dealing with this client situation. What am I missing?
Yes.
How am I doing? So I get someone else to kind of supervise me so that they can check to see, okay, wait, what's going on here? So I pay for somebody to make sure that my biases don't get in the way of helping other people.
Yes.
So
Yes.
anyway, so this relationship guru, Derrick Jaxn. So now I painted the picture for you. My introduction to Derrick Jaxn, I followed him on Facebook. I watched some of his stuff. I thought it was really interesting. And I personally was a little biased in his favor because he graduated from Tuskegee. Hello.
Okay. Yes.
I was
Yes.
born there, and my dad taught there for 40 years or whatever. His whole academic career, he taught at that university. So I had a bias because I said, "Oh, here he is from Tuskegee. Oh, he's not trained, but I kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt." Anyway,
Exactly.
so there was one day, and of course, Boyce was kind of grumbling under his breath about he's just one-sided. So anyway, so he does this video where his it was almost like he did the whole video and his crotch was in the video.
Are you serious? Okay, he's really
Yes.
trying to. Okay, all
He
right,
tried to get
okay.
the women. So I screenshotted this and I sent it to Boyce and I was like, I'm done with him. That just kind of bothered. I was like, I don't want to look at your crotch while I'm
No,
scrolling on Facebook. So
no, no, not professional. That I mean,
not
again,
professional. Yeah,
we've been taught better.
that was a red flag, right?
Hmm.
Cris, get a load of this. This man, come to find out a few years ago, he was married,
Mm,
never posting his wife anywhere, but he was
mm.
married, he had children, and he was sleeping around with all of these women, Cris.
Oh, wow. So,
And it got
uh,
out. So he was treating his own wife,
mm,
the very thing that he was warning women to watch
mm,
out for in men.
mm.
I couldn't believe it. So at this point, I'm all like, what is going on? And it's not, I don't want to talk about him to kind of gossip about him,
Right,
But I
right.
really want to bring this out about how all of the things, it's so funny how your defense mechanism deals with your guilt,
For
right?
real. Yes. Yes. Our
Excellent
defense
illustration.
mechanisms. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Because he was doing all of the things and participating in all of the hurt. Can you imagine how
Mm.
hurt this lady
Mm-mm.
is?
Yeah, I can't.
And when it got out that he was sleeping with all these different women and that actually he was married, and come to find out he was cheating on her and blah, blah,
Mm.
blah, they decide to, both of them together, they decide to go to record a video where he kind of confesses that he had cheated and that he had rededicated himself to his marriage. Now, personally, I thought that was beautiful because so many men don't take accountability for their own behavior. And he goes on live, he finally shows his wife, and he
Oh.
finally like, we're going to keep our family together. Yes, I did this. I mean, he was very open and honest, Chris. You should have seen the video. It's really interesting. Very open and honest, talking about how he is really, then he had nerve to talk about Jesus, girl. He had nerve to get
Mm.
religious and
Oh.
bring Jesus
Oh.
into it. I said, what Jesus
Girl.
got to do with this? So he brings Jesus
Okay.
into it. And it's so interesting how the mind really operates when you're doing sinister stuff. So she gets on there and she's totally 100% in support of her husband. And she was
Wow.
like, and so he got kind of like humiliated a little bit online, but he seemed to kind of bounce back from a lot of it because he's confessing his love for his wife, rededicating himself to his marriage. All of these wonderful things were happening. She had totally
Yes.
forgave him.
Wow,
And
that's good.
I thought it was really
Amazing.
beautiful in a
Yeah.
way. But the only thing was that here he's this eye candy, and she's up there with her hair in a bonnet.
Oh,
And she had these
girl.
big rim glasses on. And she was kind of giving us like, I don't know, it was there was something you could tell from the video that there was something not right with her psychologically. And so
Mm.
at this time, I'm all into it. And Boyce was like, Alicia, you should come on and talk about it from a therapist's point of view, what we can learn from this. So I'm giving my therapist talk, and I'm talking about how, women who are deceived and the effects of infidelity. And I mean, all of these things that happen psychologically. And one thing that I said at the time, and that I still believe today, that for a lot of women, especially religious women, they
Yes, yes.
feel, first of all, us as a society, we are, us as a society, we believe we tie our identity so closely to being a wife and a mother.
Yes.
And it's almost like that's all you are, a wife and a mother, and then everything else comes second. So when something like this
Exactly.
happens that shatters, your whole existence, because infidelity in the way that he was doing it, and the fact that we now know that, he was videotaping. We now know he was videotaping all of this stuff, and she was watching it. Oh my God. So I
Mm.
don't even want to let me tell the whole story. So I'm talking about this, and I'm talking about it that, especially religious women and women in general, and this is a cultural thing, it's our
Mm-hmm.
job to preserve the family, to keep the family together.
Yes, yes.
And
Yep.
this
Historically,
all,
that's our social role, right?
yeah, yeah.
And it's,
It
but you were saying, and it's all.
No, go ahead. You say more about that.
Well, I mean, whether we like it or not, okay, the reality is evolution has led to certain strengths and weaknesses beyond the gender roles that women and men have. And I believe because of generations before this, and the roles that women had from the beginning of human time, women have certain strengths about community, family, that then translate into skills or manifest to skills like communication,
Mm-hmm.
multitasking,
Yeah.
um, organization, those kinds of things. That and then the men have their own. They have their roles and their strengths as well. um they were the provider, right? Back in
Yes.
the day, if we want to take it back in the way back in the day, right, they were the ones that went and fetched the food, hunted for us. Because I don't know about you, Alicia, but I wasn't trying to kill no animals. I mean, I know I'm
Yes.
hungry, I might be hungry, but back in the day, that wasn't me. And so,
Yeah.
I think there's some respect, even that I have personally, that goes beyond just traditional gender roles, even though they may align with such, because we each, men and women,
Yeah.
have our roles that we're strength. We have strengths. We have strengths within our roles that we play. But go ahead. Go
That
ahead,
is so true. Yeah, because women are, I mean, in a sense, when it's your job to preserve the relationship for the sake of the entire family, right? And you think
Yes.
about the power differential where you're a homemaker and your husband is bringing in the money and you're dependent on this financially and it's part of your
Yes.
status. That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
Like, it's your status as a woman. Here I am, a wife and a mom, and I'm steeped in the word of the gospel, right? Because she's quoting Bible
Right.
quotes. Okay.
Right. Which was
Yes.
relevant back then. But things have
Right.
changed. Things have evolved.
Things
And we
have
need to
evolved.
translate it. You can't be literal. When
Yes.
was things were written back in the day as a guide that I think I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the expectation is that there is some evolution or some evolving that happens just like with all creatures, with human beings. And we're at this place now, especially based on need. I mean, Alicia, did we not have a need, especially among those of us who were lower socioeconomic status?
Yes.
You can't just go on one man. The man's gonna work and the woman's gonna stay on. That was not an option.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even more so today, in today's world, that's not an option, even beyond the low SES, right? Even beyond, that's like most people, you got a two-person working home. Now,
That's
what does
right.
that do to the gender roles?
Well, what it does is that women are tired because we're
Oh,
working alongside men. We're
mm-hmm.
working, we're going out working, but we're coming home and we carry on a lot of the responsibilities for raising children. So
That's
that's what
right.
kind of happens. And we are just, and to do that, to preserve the relationship in that way, we have to hide how we really feel. And no matter how we've been wronged by our husbands, we have to kind of suck it up for the entire family. So that
That's
was kind
right.
of the message. That was the message that I think I saw in that interview. Okay. So
Interesting.
anyway, they go off into the sunset. Derrick Jaxn, he's still creating videos. He's still doing his thing, right? Eventually, I think he took that video down because it sparked a whole lot of debate. A lot of debate online. Very interesting learning. I thought it was a good learning teaching tool, for all of us to kind of like see. Okay,
Yes.
so right now as we speak, there are snippets of an interview, and her name is Danaya. Her name is Danaya, and his name is Derrick, right? Apparently,
Okay.
there are snippets of an interview from her. And let me tell you something. It's a visual interview. The last time we saw her, or last time I saw her, she had this bonnet on with these big old glasses. She's doing this interview with Dear Future Wifey podcast. And it's a tell-all interview, girl. She does a tell-all interview.
Mm.
I haven't seen the entire interview. So the initial thing about him cheating on her that came out a couple of years ago during the pandemic. Now, just as we
Mm.
speak, the past couple of days, she decides that she does this. She gets on and she does a tell-all interview with a guy from Dear Future Wifey podcast, and she starts telling everything because apparently now they're divorced.
Oh, she coming out with the truth.
She
Okay.
coming out with the real deal. And by
With
the
the real
way,
deal.
she's absolutely beautiful in this interview. You wouldn't even think it was the same person. She lost those glasses. She took off that bonnet.
I was
She's
about to
got
say,
this.
okay.
She had no bonnet on. I was like, girl, blink twice if you need somebody to protect, save you, right? She takes
Right,
off the
right.
bonnet. She takes everything off, and she does these series. She does an interview, and this man, I don't know his name, but Dear Future Wifey podcast, he is releasing snippets of the interview, and I think you have to subscribe or something to see the whole interview. I'm not certain how to do it. I'm so new to social media, I'm not quite certain, but I really would like to see all of it just to see what you can pull out of that. And
Yes, me too.
she one of the things she talked about in this little, because he's releasing like 2-minute snippets of this interview, she gets on there and that she says a whole bunch of things, but one of the things she said was that she knew all along that he was cheating.
Oh,
Not only did she know he was cheating, but she was there when the women were coming in and out of the house.
no.
Yes,
And
Cris.
okay, wait. So that was okay with her? That was
It
okay with her.
it wasn't okay with her, but she just knew it.
Mm.
She just knew what was going on.
And so my question is, what was the dynamics that she didn't feel she could express her dissatisfaction with that, with what was
That's
going on with in
it's
her own
interesting.
home, by the way.
Well, she talked about how it totally broke her down and it made her so depressed, Cris,
Oh,
that she was thinking about suicide, Cris. It was the
oh,
saddest interview. I was like, "Oh my god, this lady." She said it broke her down so much that she was, cuz she had children.
right.
And she said
Yep.
the women were coming in and out, and she said what was interesting was that there would be so many women coming in and out that he would be backed up because he would take too long. Why do we need to know this level of information? I don't know, but it would take too
True,
long.
true, true.
It would take too long, and
Wow.
women would get backed up. And I promise you, I bet you he was, I don't know, he didn't say this, but it sounded as if with all those women coming in there, I bet he was sleeping with them all at once, probably. And probably his wife included was
Wow.
thrown in there. I just got that sense from the interview that all these people were kind of thrown in. But that was what was fascinating about the whole thing, was that she could see it and it destroyed her.
Yeah, and I want to say a caveat because, there are couples out there that have open relationships. That
Mm-hmm.
is an agreement between both the man and the woman
Uh-huh.
together.
Yeah.
This does not sound like an agreement if she was dissatisfied and then didn't feel like she can voice her concerns, her dissatisfaction, like I said, about it. Like, I mean, honestly, real talk, I'm like, what if she went and did the same thing? How'd that roll?
Interesting. Yeah, or if she
Not
did,
that
I
she
mean,
would, because you don't want to make things worse for the children, for the family. But I do have to go there. Like, is this something? Was he trying to have an open relationship for real, and forgot to have the conversation with her, and she could do the same thing? And then, because that conversation would also encompass that discussion about how this impacts the children. What are the boundaries?
yeah.
What is safe for you? What is safe for me? So that she wouldn't be in that place of feeling like she's just in a corner, like no voice, no concerns. I'm sorry, no voice, no way to voice her concerns. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know. Doesn't seem
that's
like that's the case.
doesn't seem like it's the case. And I think your dog agrees with us. Your dog's like,
She
yes.
does. I'm
She does.
sorry. She sure does. She a girl, so
She
she a
can she has to
girl. So
weigh in on this. It's
yeah, she's
crazy.
like,
Yeah, it
go ahead.
almost
It's
seems
good.
like no. Let me give you this other detail. It almost seems like an R. Kelly situation because he had videotaped, had her sit and watch the videotape, and
Oh, girl.
told her that he needed to learn what they were doing.
Oh no, 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 no. And am I right in assuming that there was like this from her perspective, this was not discussed?
It
Like
wasn't
this
discussed. He
was
was
not
just doing it.
her, yeah, this was not her saying, "Oh, honey, I want to learn new techniques." This was just him bringing it to her, like, "You need to do this."
Yes, and she said she was doing it. She said she
Mm-mm.
was absolutely obsessed with, and she mentioned like I knew those women's bodies more than I knew my own body.
Oh, oh,
And she
talk about
breaks down,
flags.
Chris. She breaks down and cries in the interview. I was like, oh my God, this is like, this is really something. She needs,
Mm-hmm.
she really needs treatment to help process. I mean, somebody who goes through
Absolutely.
something like that. And the thing is that when oh geez, it really
I
is an
know, where do you
awful
start?
thing because
It really
what is
is.
it going to do? Because I see this a lot with my couples. Things like that, what it does, it makes you feel like you are inadequate as a
Exactly.
mother, as a wife. It makes you feel like you are
Mm-hmm.
inadequate in the bedroom. Because it's
That's
like
right.
if I
That's
was
right.
giving him everything that he needed, if I was, it's not even just he or she. This is spouse. I've seen this where women have cheated and men start to feel the same way when they have been deceived in this way. They're the psychological impact of an affair is, oh my goodness, there must have been something wrong with me, or why would my spouse
Exactly.
have to seek outside relationship?
Exactly.
And
And
that's where the
then
depression comes in. Go ahead.
exactly. And that, yes, exactly. Because she internalized that. She
Yeah.
internalized that stuff. It didn't matter what other messages that she was getting that talked about or that gave her the message that she's a good mother or she's a beautiful woman. She was that, just the action alone gave her that message that she's inadequate. And that's the thing too, like about therapy, getting in there. Because I'm wondering, you said you started out saying that this man is out there giving therapy or therapeutic advice
Yeah.
to people and has a following. But what does that mean? Like, is he's talking about things that seem more from the woman's perspective, but is it all talk? He's clearly not walking the talk, right?
Yeah, exactly. He was
You have,
online. Yeah.
yeah,
No, go
he
ahead.
has he has his own wife at home suffering, and he is turning around. Where is the integrity in that talk? Where is the integrity in his words? And again, like, if you have an agreement in your marriage or in your relationship that is going to be open, okay, cool. That's more healthy, or that is the healthiest version if you're going to go that route, or you have an agreement between both parties. But him going to do his thing and she doesn't know, or she knows and then she has no voice, no, of course that's going to lead to depression. Because how else would you feel? How
Yeah.
else could a woman feel when her man, her partner, her life partner is turning away from the marriage and seeking other avenues beside, in lieu of her? And then where's that fatherly? I'm sorry, Alicia. I think you were about to say
No,
something, but I
go
was,
ahead. No,
you know,
no, you get on it.
where's that fatherly piece? Where's the piece like we talked about? She's likely thinking about, or women typically think about, in terms of holding the family together. Where is his mind in thinking about those children? Where were those children when he's bringing these other women in the house? How did he respond if those children saw what was happening? But also, what about the fact that you are impacting the mother of these children,
Yes.
who is, part of the team raising these children, and internalizing these feelings? Like, depression is real. And depression, a mother who is dealing with depression, we're kidding ourselves if we don't think that has some impact on their children.
How could it not? How could it not
How
have an
could,
impact?
yes, exactly. How
The
could it
kids
not have an
know.
impact?
The kids know. The kids know something's wrong with mommy. What's happening? Something's wrong with her. Something's wrong with mommy. They know.
Exactly. They know.
And to
And you
have
know what? I feel, oh no, go ahead, Alicia.
no,
I'm
no, you go.
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, and people think, oh, kids are young, they ain't paying attention. But I honestly believe, especially the younger children, when they're still learning their verbal, like, vocabulary, and, what they will lean towards or pick up from the beginning is the nonverbal behaviors. Even when these babies don't even know how to talk, they know how our nonverbal behaviors are, so they're picking up on her nonverbal. She might be sitting there saying, "Yes, honey, I'm fine," but they know she's not fine. And
Hmm.
where is he in that situation? Where is his accountability in that situation?
Exactly. I mean, it almost seems like, I mean, we don't really know. I mean, we haven't interviewed him or anything, but to really
True.
need all of those women like that rotating in and out, I mean, that's something you look like, whoo, this is somebody that needs to deal with some big issues with sex addiction, you know,
I
and,
agree.
uh-huh.
I agree. And let's, like you said, let's take it off of him. We ain't trying to gossip about him. But let's talk about that. Like, these men who prefer to have more than one person, more than one woman in their life, right? They want multiple women. Okay, again, I go back to, if you're that man, but you embark on a relationship, have you discussed with your
Yeah.
partner what that feels like? What is that about?
Yeah.
Do are they in agreement? Um, do they are they in agreement with having an open relationship? And honestly, Alicia, I feel like a lot of times men are not willing to go there with their life partner if they have that urge to have multiple women, to allow the woman to have multiple partners. She may or may not. But did you allow that? Did you have a discussion? If, like, one of let me back up. If if we're talking about friends, two friends, you would never betray that trust, or you're less likely. Let me not go to absolutes like never, but you're less likely to betray the trust of a friend, but you're going to betray the trust of your life partner? Because I
Wow.
feel like a lot of times you will betray this. I don't think there's this concept of understanding you are betraying the trust of your life partner. And that is so basic. It's one of the fundamentals, right, of a relationship. So now you've broken my trust. And it's a lot harder to regain the trust than it was to get it in the first place, right?
Chris, that's so spot on. Like that, losing that trust. I'm gonna tell you, in my practice, um, I've worked with couples for a year, a solid
Hmm.
year, Chris, meeting
Wow.
every week just to go through. the painful process of exploring what happened with that, all of the things that led up to the infidelity and the aftermath. And we're in this age of social media, and so many people are now being exposed to so much more because there's a record of everything. Like, it's even better. It's better when
Oh,
you just don't know, you know, but because
yeah.
there's this, like, it's hard to like escape. You're like, oh my God, I read all the messages, when before there was no evidence. So it's even more devastating now
Exactly.
because you now have a visual for many people, like she does, of all of this. So it has really become
Mm-mm.
really something. And you know, you can, I think what happened with her is that she lost her self-respect. And that's an
Yeah,
emotional response to an affair. It's to lose your self-respect and to
absolutely.
feel like you have to do all of these things to make it better because you again internalize it and think it's your fault. And that's what, it's a wonderful illustration of what she talked about in that interview, about all of the things she did. She wasn't even being herself. She was being what she thought she needed to be to keep him, and she hadn't realized that it's not her fault,
Yes, yes.
that
It
he
makes
was the
sense.
one.
No, go ahead. That he was the one.
Yeah, he was the one. And she was angry. She really was angry with her husband. She was angry with Derrick. And she couldn't express it because a lot of women are told not to. And I think some of that religious stuff is wonderful, but at the same time, it can be used to suppress how you really feel. And what she did was turn it in on herself. That anger got turned in on
Yes,
herself as depression. There is something wrong with me.
absolutely,
And
absolutely,
really, he's the one that's sick.
absolutely.
And
I mean, you know. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
and no, I was gonna say there's somebody in the chat here, Delisha. I love that name, Delisha, because I'm Alicia and she's Delisha. Anyway,
I love it too.
she made a really good point. She said there were probably red flags from the beginning.
Yes, yes. That's a whole nother topic, right? Oh, that's a whole nother topic, on the way when you're trying to let people know about the red flags. Oh,
Lord,
yeah.
when I saw that message from her, I was like, ouch. Because like every relationship I ever been in where it's failed, I always go back to the beginning. And I'm like, why did I pay attention to this?
Yes, yes. I think we all share that
We're all
experience.
guilty of this
It's
thing.
yes, men or women. We be seeing red flags. We're like, no, it's all good. We talk
It's all
ourselves into
good.
it. But he or she, they do this, they do that. Oh, we didn't mean much. It's just one time. So I get that. Like, okay, there
And
were
you know
probably
what's
red flags.
and you know what's interesting is that her name is Denia. And it seems like she was in denial about a lot
Okay,
of stuff. Like
yeah,
she living up to her name in a sense, because what did she ignore? And I think like if she, hopefully she gets some therapy, hopefully her therapist will
yeah,
deconstruct this entire relationship and
yes,
she could walk away feeling whole. But there must be a discussion on what did you notice early on that you should have
absolutely.
paid attention to that you didn't. Because if she doesn't do this very important process, she will remain in denial, and she will
Yep.
go and she'll meet somebody else, and next thing you know, she's gonna be like, wow, this happened again. There's women coming in and out of the house. How am I back in the same situation I was in before?
Oh, preach, girl. That's what I'm talking about. Like, one of the things that I love about learning is to take that perspective of you're always learning in life. So, in that, from that perspective, you can make mistakes. Okay, I think all of us can agree that we've made mistakes and we didn't know, but now you know. And if she in her in her situation can get therapy, you're absolutely right. She's gonna learn those red flags. Okay, she's gonna understand not only what the trigger was, or what that red flag, how that red flag appeared, but how she reacted to it. How that pivotal point where she made that decision to say, I'm going to ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where therapy, I think, can be helpful. And but even more so, not to just tout therapy, but I have to say at the same time, again, we're not just talking about healing this woman, but healing the family, the children that she has, that family unit. You know, it happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
She is the person that bears the brunt of the pain. But the fact is, family unit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, I do think about the fact that there are children here. These are real live people,
Exactly.
who are going to grow up and realize, oh my God, my parents are famous for this thing, you know,
Right.
and
I'm gonna be
and
able to look it up and see it
I
in the news.
yeah, I mean, they can actually pull the videos down when they get old enough. And it reminds me of, like, did you see the new Kanye West thing that's going on where apparently there was some video about Kim Kardashian saying that Kanye West is going around talking about her sex tape and how he or saying things about her, and she is like, this could be potentially damaging to the children, and she was
Mhm.
kind of talking to him about, can we just try to be cordial and nice to each other, because it's the kids are getting older and they're starting to get wind of some things, or she doesn't even want to have them damaged. Because, I mean, say what you want about Kim Kardashian, those children are very well connected to her. Like, from what
Absolutely.
I can see, she takes very good care of those kids. Like, they living their best life on TikTok and stuff. So
Mhm.
especially the oldest one, and you can see that there's a true, because I do watch. I've watched parts of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I watch parts of their show or whatever, and it really, I mean, they really love those kids, and those kids love their mother, and that's
Mhm.
part of you. I think, like, parents need to understand that. And I think this went back to a comment that was made earlier. This gentleman in here, I remember who he is, James Sharp. Anyway, thanks you, James. I don't know if James still in here, but James was like, why would she go and do this podcast and spread all this information out there now? Like, it's a great teaching tool for us to kind of talk about it and learn from it, but at the same time, she
Mhm.
just did a big tell all and was just airing all the dirty laundry. Like, some of the stuff she talked about, it was real cringy. Like, whoa, it
Oof.
was like unbelievable. Like, I would hate, because now I'm sort of kind of public, I would hate
Yes.
for, like, an ex to get on here and start telling all my business, true or not true,
Absolutely.
like, it leaves yourself open for that. So I agree with him about, like, just getting, and Boyce felt the same way too. Boyce was like, Alicia, you ain't got to worry about me. I am not going to, if anything happens between us, he said, I am not going to get online and talk shit about you. It's like, because it's
Absolutely.
it's really silly, so we have that sort of trust with each other that we won't do that. I
Right.
mean, I know him very well. He knows me, that we're
Right.
intimate. We're married to each other. But
Exactly. Exactly.
you just
Yeah.
there's just some things that the public don't need to know. And we were talking about that, like Will and Jada. We were like, they just divulged way too much. We were all like, we like
Yeah.
your red table talk, but do we need to hear about everything happening in your relationship and in your family? Like, it got to be too much. So it's really something that you need to try to, like, be conscious of not using. And I think this is what happens a lot, is that people use social media as a weapon
Yes.
against, right,
The
against
other
somebody that they're
person.
mad. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I have two thoughts about that. One, I have been a person that throughout my life, even before we got our degrees, um, that I've always looked to other people's experiences. What happened to you? How did you deal with this? What was your perspective? And so I do think there is some value in learning, but yeah, there is a boundary Particularly I think for people, there see, this is where social media comes in. You hear a snippet. You can't follow up with questions. I mean, you can try, like in the chat or, calling in or whatever. But, is there the follow up where you can talk about this? But then there's also the part that you talked about, which is, okay, this is forever kind of available in the universe, if you will, for your children to later see. And
Yeah.
there's something to be said about that. Like, um, I think we need to protect children from certain details. Um, but also,
Yeah.
there's certain things that, when you go into therapy, that stuff is very private. And the
Yeah.
reason is part of therapy is allowing that safe place to be vulnerable where you're not going to be judged. You put that stuff on social media, you're going to be judged. These are not therapists that are
Yeah.
responding to you, right? And
Social media
maybe
is not therapy.
no,
Yeah.
no, you're gonna get judgment. We can like if going back to Kim Kardashian. I mean, you will get judgment every which way. These people are not therapists. They're not trying to tell you what's good for you. They just might be judging you. And where are they coming from? Where is our? They're not necessarily always going to come from the point of helping you learn and see like different choices you can make, or even like in that woman's situation that you talked about, just even understanding like, no girl, that wasn't you.
Yes.
You should not be internalizing that. And for a
Yes.
woman like her, I even bleed out a lot of empathy for her, because you put that stuff out there and you're going to have people hitting you left and right. Oh, you should have known. Okay, we I think we can all say there have been experiences in our life where we should have known. Okay, then can we learn from it? And the fact of the matter is we can't always learn. In her situation, if you fully internalize the message that you were getting from your life partner, that person you trust,
Ooh.
that you trust with your life, and you, of course, you're going to internalize like, I trust him with my life. I trust him to have children with him. I trust this man. And so what he's speaking, or his actions must be real. They must be indicative of who I am as a person. And you got no
Yes.
other things telling you or correcting you that there is a boundary there. There is a boundary there that you should not be internalizing that. If you don't have the therapeutic help, or you're just looking for people who are unskilled on social media trying to tell you one way or another, girl, you're going to end up that woman who's internalized it and beating herself down internally over and over and over again. And
Yes.
and shoot, we can talk about how that manifests in so many ways. I mean, I hope people out there can understand, or kind of tap into that moment, or those moments, if there's more than one, that they've had where they're like, "Oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that." Okay, you wish you wouldn't have done that, so you do better next time. But there's no sense in beating yourself up. But if you have no one else to be there for you, to say that, to help you move forward, to correct you on this false interpretation or false perception of yourself, what are you left with?
Wow.
You know?
Yeah,
And
I mean, it's
and it
crushing. Like as you're talking, I'm sitting here thinking about some of my couples that have gone through this. It's the most crushing thing that can happen. Like you're going along your life and you think everything is fine, and then in an instant, you're like, "What?" And it
yes,
throws
yes,
everything into question.
absolutely.
And I'm
Absolutely.
gonna tell you, I think some of these people that I work with, a lot of times they have PTSD, like serious post traumatic stress disorder, symptoms of it.
Mm,
where they can't stop thinking about it. And I have to say, listen, how many hours a day are you thinking about this situation? What is it that you need to do? And it's really devastating to hear, I think about it every waking hour.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, and
Because the closer it is, I feel like the closer it
yeah,
is to your core of who you are, okay? And I'm gonna I'm gonna argue that the role as wife or husband, mother, father, those are very close to our core of who we are. And
yeah.
as wife and husband, and you are internalizing the thought of I'm a crappy partner, I'm a crappy spouse because he or she keeps looking outside of the marriage. How far can you go? You're stuck at that point, right? You're going to
Yeah.
be cycling through, um, which includes depression, anger. You're going to be cycling through these emotions that will continue to keep you stuck in that moment. And again, what is the impact on the children? When they
Oh
see
my
their mama,
goodness.
yeah, they see their mama stuck in this. And then what about this is something that's come to my mind several times before this issue. What about those daughters that
Mm,
are seeing
mm,
this
mm.
happen to their mothers? What is the message that they're receiving? That this is
Yeah.
okay?
And how
So,
and they could react to it one of two ways. They could say, they could either join in, with
yep.
it and say, yes, it is okay. Or they could be
Mhm.
totally turned off by it and never trust a man.
Exactly.
Because it's like, my father picked these women over my mother, and my mother is half of me. So if there must have been something wrong with my mother, this is unconscious stuff, right? There must be something wrong with my
Absolutely.
mother, or my father would have picked my mother over these women. And then therefore there must be
Yep.
something wrong with me because I'm
Yes.
half of her.
That's right. That's right. And
And then that would
you know,
mean, and if you go the opposite direction, then you could even, if you get upset with your father and say there's something wrong with my dad for doing this, then I'm half of my dad, so there must be something wrong with me. No matter what it is,
you
whoever you
know
identify with, you can't not identify with your parents. So when you
you are
go through
so right.
something like that, there's just like, these people are flawed in a way that's really damaging to each other, and therefore I'm gonna soak that up. So how could the kids not soak this up?
No, you're right. You know what? And thank you for correcting me. I don't know if you
Yeah.
meant to, but thank you
Oh,
for
did I? I
correcting
didn't
me
even know
because
I
it's
did
not
that.
just a, yeah, I don't think so. I don't know that you meant to, but yeah, no, when I listen to you, it's exactly right. It's not just the girls. It's the men, it's the sons
The
too that are going to
sons,
have this
yeah.
impact. You know, again, one of the things I learned is that a lot of times the first place we go to when we think or are in a relationship, and again, I think it's unconscious, like you, or at best subconscious, like you were saying, we're we're mimicking what we saw,
Oh my
what
God.
we have seen. Okay, so these children are not being set up for success, and that's a problem because
Oh,
our children are our future. I hate
you
to
know
be
what,
like,
Chris, you're saying some really good stuff, but we have been talking for 58 minutes. And
oh
the
my
thing is
goodness,
that
that
I
went
don't even
fast.
want, I know, and I don't want to go over an hour. So listen, we got 1 minute left. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been listening to us. We'll come back on and have these good conversations. These
Excellent.
children internalize it, and that's how we perpetuate all of these things. You've been listening to Dr. Alicia and Dr. Cris, and I just want to thank everybody for listening in. We had a good conversation about infidelity, how it affects the family. Be sure to join us. We'll have more conversations like this. We were getting really deep here, but we gotta close it down. But Chris, I'll be back. We're gonna talk next week. I
I
just
look
enjoy
forward
talking
to
to
it.
you.
Oh, same, same. Oh
Same
yes,
here.
some good talk.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Sky
Bye,
Love, and
everyone.
everybody for joining us. Okay. Bye bye.
Yes. Bye bye.